I think it is far from a hot take to say that both attempts at ending Dexter's story were complete and utter shit. Season 8 was a train wreck from start to finish, and New Blood had some potential, but ultimately felt like a multiple season arc that was crammed into 10 episodes. And I know that Dexter Resurrection is on the way, and fingers crossed that the third time might be the charm. Maybe they can end his story in a satisfying way this time around, but I'm not holding my breath. So today I'm going to be putting on my studio executive hat and pitch a few ways that I would have preferred the series to culminate. And my first option would be to just completely avoid Season 8 and New Blood in their entirety. I hate almost everything about Season 8, and with a few tweaks, Season 7 could have been a great send-off. One, we could have had LaGuerta actually catch Dexter with the help of Deb, finally putting an end to the Bay Harbor Butcher's run and clearing the name of James Stokes. Or I think we could have had Deb make the right call and shoot Dexter in that storage bin. I just always felt like Deb shooting LaGuerta was an odd choice and felt out of character for her. I think with Season 7 as is, the most in-character decision for Deb would have been to just leave and let Dexter do what he does. But with a few tweaks to Season 7, I think we could have built to an emotionally charged scene where Deb shoots Dexter. I mean, after all of her failed attempts to get Dexter to stop killing people, I think it would be reasonable for Deb to realize that there's only one way to truly stop Dexter. And in my opinion, this option would have been far better than Dexter becoming a fucking lumberjack like he did at the end of Season 8. There'd also be some nice symbolism with him being born in blood in a storage container and then meeting his end in one as well. Now, if I had to accept a Season 8, then I would rework the season to primarily be an entire 12 episodes of Deb versus Dexter. Either having Deb on a mission to take Dexter down and finally bring him to justice, or having Deborah become a killer herself, one that fits Dexter's code. And I think the latter of these two options is the most interesting direction to go in. Essentially, having killed LaGuerta would send Deb into a downward spiral and she'd just start killing people. She resents Dexter for putting her in a position where she had to choose between him and LaGuerta, so now she's gonna put Dexter in a position where he has to choose between her or his precious code. He can either put Deb out of her misery by putting her on his table, or he can let her just keep spiraling and wreaking havoc, which she knows will eat him alive given his strict code. And I would have Dexter ultimately make the very difficult decision to kill Deb, and have her be his last victim. After plunging his knife into Deb's chest, I'd have Dexter decide to send his son away with Hannah and turn himself in. In my opinion, we can really only have Dexter's story end one of two ways. Either he can get caught, or he can die. For a serial killer like him, those are the two inevitable potential outcomes. And I like the idea of being forced to kill Deborah because it brings the series full circle. His brother put Deb on the table in Season 1, but Dexter refused to kill her because he loves her. But now, come Season 8, he has no choice. He has to kill her to stop what she's become, in large part due to his actions. Even though he's taking her life, it is also in a way an act of love. And I think the guilt of having to take her life would be a justifiable reason to want to turn himself in. It would help him finally see that no matter how hard he tries, everyone close to him eventually dies. And he would make the decision to turn himself in and put a stop to it all, before passing his curse down to his son. Now, if you hate the idea of Dexter simply turning himself in and would prefer him to die, then I think Dexter letting himself get taken by the hurricane and actually dying from this would also be a fitting end to my version of Season 8. I'd have Dexter lower Deb's body into the water after having killed her, and with a tear in his eye, he'd drive out into the hurricane, with his inner monologue telling us that Deb was his last victim, and how he knows that everyone he loves ends up dead because of him. So before this curse reaches his son, he's going to let the storm take him and end his own life. Now, if I had to accept the actual Season 8 finale and was taxed with culminating Dexter New Blood in a better, more satisfying way, I think first and foremost that it should have been a multiple season show. We should have had another season that saw Harrison and Dexter killing people together in a new setting like Los Angeles, that then could have seen them slowly drift apart as Harrison realizes that Dexter's desire to kill people actually has nothing to do with saving innocent lives. And let's be honest, the case that Angela had against Dexter was not that strong, claiming that because Dexter potentially injected 2 people with ketamine means that he has to be the Bay Harbor Butcher because that killer injected his victims with M99 is such a big stretch. And given that Kurt is a serial killer with actual proof to be found of it, there was just about a 0% chance that her case was gonna stick in court, even with Batista's help. So I'd end season 1 with Angela reluctantly letting Dexter go since she has no case against him. At least at this point, Dexter and Harrison would leave for Los Angeles, and Angela and Batista would team up and vow to eventually take Dexter down because though they don't have enough evidence yet, they know in their souls that he's the true Bay Harbor Butcher. My season 2 of Dexter New Blood would essentially see Harrison and Dexter making a series of kills in Los Angeles, while Angela and Batista are hot on their tails trying to catch them and put together enough evidence to put Dexter away for good. Now, as I said earlier, this season would see Harrison slowly start to drift away from Dexter because he comes to the realization that there's nothing noble behind why Dexter kills. So as an act of rebellion, I'd have Harrison make a kill room on his own and perform a sloppy solo kill that leaves behind some evidence for Angela and Batista to find, which would put Dexter in a position where he can either let Harrison go down and get put away for life, or he can take the blame, admit to all of his crimes, and give his son a second chance at life. And while killing Dexter is a viable option, I think having him caught is actually better because we could then have a nice interrogation scene between Dexter and Batista, where Dexter essentially tells him everything. And a scene like this could be the most emotionally charged in the entire series. I mean, imagine Dexter telling Batista that he's the reason for LaGuerta's death, that Lila killed Dokes in cold blood, even that he killed the Trinity Killer, who Batista probably thinks is still out there somewhere. And honestly, I think we could merge the idea of Dexter being caught and Dexter being killed because if he is tried in Florida, he would receive the death penalty. So the closing shot of my New Blood Season 2 would be Dexter in the electric chair as his son, Batista, Angela, Quinn, and Masuka look on. We'd then switch to Dexter's POV of them watching him, and as his vision starts to get more and more blurry, he'd see Harry and Deb also standing there watching him. Eventually, the camera would fully fade to black, signaling the end of Dexter and the end of my rewrite. Well, if you made it this far, please let me know what you think of my potential alternate endings for Dexter. Also, if you were a showrunner, how would you have ended Dexter? Are you excited for Dexter Resurrection, or are you extremely skeptical like myself? I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please feel free to drop a like or subscribe for more Screen Stories content. Until next time, peace.